Hey folks, Reloading Bench back with you once again, and a little hard to fit this all in frame. Let's see if I can adjust a little. So the idea behind this video, to try and catch both of these, is a product comparison of new versus old for the same product. And I thought I would break this into three segments. And the first segment, I think I'm going to compare physical aspects of the two units, price points. The second segment, I'll do maybe a heavy charge powder like the Barrett 416 cartridge, or maybe something not quite that big, but bigger than a small straight wall pistol. And then maybe something real small and very fine powder based, like something I had mentioned previously for the FN. FN57. The thing, perfect timing too, because I just got my most recent Midway flyer, and as usually, there's always a big section on reloading stuff. And as you can see, there were three RCBS Charge Master offerings. And I thought it was great timing because then it can compare price-wise and feature-wise. So the features are going to be similar. You're going to have some that are higher end in terms of either speed or footprint, complexity footprint. So the comparable offerings in the Charge Master line, I would say old school. We've got the Charge Master powder scale and dispenser, and that's a list price of $566, Midway price of $449, on sale for $304. So the fact that it's discounted that heavily means it's on its way out. So I would equate this product to an older version, or to this to from a price point of view. But from a feature set, I would say that it's much closer to the RCBS Charge Master Lite, both in footprint, the almost other than the blue, Freudian slip there, other than the green, maybe I'm colorblind as I age, other than the green versus the red, very, very similar layout in terms of structure for the powder reservoir, the actual tube, pan, and then the front LCD display, albeit differently down here. And the price is about $194 on sale. So list price $334, normal price $289, sale price $194. And that's about what this goes for, depending on where you find it. And I'm sure Hornady will be discontinuing it, so it'll be leftover new old stock from wherever you, again, pick it up. And then on the top end, we've got the Match Master. So obviously, these two combined make this bad boy, and that's on sale for $800. So list price $1,123.95. So I was bitching and moaning about this price, which was almost double what I paid for this. I got this at the smokinest deal. I can never complain about this particular unit. But when looking at some competitor products, and again, not bashing RCBS, just brought this out because I thought it was interesting from a price point perspective along comparable lines across vendors. And I thought I would point out that when you look at this this particular device now, and I think let me try and pan a little bit lower so you can see some of the differences that I'm going to point out. I remember when I first saw this product, and this is about what I first saw. And even back then, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Big redesign, bigger face than the older one. But the reality is, this is the only thing that really changes in terms of readout. So the readout's almost the same size. Everything else is just bigger in terms of numbers and the fact that it's backlit. But when you look at this old picture, it's kind of like a concept design. The first thing you'll notice is everything stayed the same for the most part, except the power button location. Instead of being in the center, it moved off to the right. And then you have Hornady branding out here. So this was obviously very early. And then when you look at the pan, you'll see, and I think I even commented, because the weights on, let's see if I can loosen this. The weights on this version are up front, which is what they had for this version. And here's a better shot. This is, I think, a Gen 2. So this would be a Gen 2 where it looks like the labeling and the button, power button, are what we have today. But the weights are similar to what's over here, but not what actually moved into production. The weights are actually behind the pan and sealed by the cover, whereas on this model, they're not sealed by the cover, so they're exposed. No big deal. Just I thought it was interesting to see these are still up on Hornady's website as of today, and I thought that was kind of interesting that they would still have something this old. And it looks like there's some of the Hornady branding. Yeah, in fact, I think that actually might have looked cooler than this. I would have been okay with power button here and Hornady branding there, but somebody in some marketing department decided that this was the winning product. So from a physical aspect side, I think I pointed out some of the differences. Same thing in terms of dust cover. Both of them have a dust cover. Both of them have a 10 gram and a 50 gram weight. This one gets exposed. This one's behind the cover, the dust cover. Dust covers are comparable in plastic density, different shapes. This one has a hole in it. I'm not sure why, but it does. This one does not. Same powder pan for both. And the difference in the powder drop, and I believe this, no, does it come out? No. On the website, when you watch the video, it looks like you can just pull this out gently, and it doesn't feel like it comes out, and I'm not going to pull it. The difference in here is it's ribbed, whereas this one has a third-party 3D printed adapter that screws in, and you can see the threads, that is supposed to help, I don't know that it really ever did, with trickling, because the biggest challenge I had with this unit was the trickle, speed of the trickle, and throwing that last little bit off in terms of when you slow down for trickle. And there are things that are programmable on this as well as on this. Very, very similar, albeit they implement in a little bit different way. This one has a bubble as well as adjustable feet. I don't think the older one had adjustable feet. I don't remember. No, not adjustable feet. This one does have adjustable feet. I think I showed it previously. Here's your adjustable feet. I know I pointed out the differences in the red platen. This has a pinched type of post that should not be press fit, and that was the biggest problem why I was getting interesting results with my zeroing. This post is just that, a post that sits in there and actually spins. This one does not, so this doesn't move. In terms of backlit, this has green backlit, and I'll turn them on. And this is a brighter fluorescent white. I think they made nice improvements in the reservoir in terms of where this sits in the back versus this kind of funky shape to some degree. Just different implementation of the same thing. This does come apart very rarely. That I don't ever leave this full, ever. So it's always emptied after the use. I already talked about this previously. On all the older scales, Hornady has a straight power lead, and it's on the side, which is kind of annoying, whereas on the new scale, it's actually a right angle, and it's in the back. So this would have been perfect to be without a right angle, whereas the right angle would have been more valuable here, because as you can see, the cable just stays in the way. If you've got anything off to your left. Difference in the brushes have to do with the size and the height of the reservoirs. This is a much smaller reservoir in the new container. I like the cap better on the new container than this cheesy, thin, very pliable version. This is actually very sturdy acrylic, obviously with the Hornady brand on there. When it comes to powder emptying, I think this is a much better implementation than what was done over here with this flip, as opposed to something that's much more robust and controlled. So let me see if I can get that a little better in the screen frame. So I think this was a much better implementation than, as I said, than this one. So I want to say that that is probably it for the physical aspects. I think I already talked about the color of the plastic. I like the older red. I like the older red better. It's a little richer. I like the satiny finish as opposed to the smoother finish of this, but I'm not going to lose a whole lot of sleep over that. And I want to say that that is about it for the initial comparisons on price, the build in terms of where things are at. For those who are wondering, when I did call out to Hornady and talk to them, as I mentioned in the previous video, their statement is this should not be a press fit. So if you get this scale and it's not zeroing or calibrating, it's because this thing is too tight. So I called them again today to request a replacement. They couldn't promise anything because this thing is too new, parts not so much available. And I gave them a heads up that I think you guys are going to see a bunch of returns or potential complaints, because not knowing that this is not supposed to be press fit, people are just going to take it out of the white box that it came in, and they're going to put it in there, and they're going to wonder why they can't zero or calibrate. Instructions wise, there's 8 pages worth of instructions for the new one. The new one online is all black and white. The old Auto Charge online is also 8 pages, but it's actually some color, some red. Essentially the same information in terms of what's covered, albeit how it's presented is a little bit different because there is different functionality, and the best example of that is with calibration. So I will put these back together, and then we'll look at potentially, actually I'm thinking maybe I'll break that into 3 separate videos, because if I spend as much time comparing each one and then comparing powder to each one and then comparing a different powder to each one, it's probably going to be multiple segments. So I will probably break this into 3 separate videos instead of one long video with 3 segments, because that's probably going to be a much too long of a video, and I'll have some tea with my next video. Take care for now. And it figures one of the things I did forget to discuss was physical dimensions. So they are slightly different when you compare them in terms of length, width. Height is about the same. So if you look at the back end, you've got about, if that's the front end, you've got, let me move the camera around a second. You've got a little bit of difference, maybe about 1 inch in terms of length. Width, if I can dance around the camera, is obviously this one is going to be wider. I will line them up. So you've got even more space saving, but this is also at an angle of a wedge, where this is one uniform shape. And if I turn this around and line them up, again, they look like they're very close, and from the rear they're the exact same size, and then this flares out to the front and gets wider. So little bit difference. Obviously a big difference in the plug. So the box has dimensions on it, and the cover that I'm having made, I think, is about a 1/4 inch difference in each of the dimensions, because the box measures the base and does not include the additional width of that particular powder dispenser function, because if I made the case to fit the size of this particular piece of plastic, it wouldn't fit right because this sticks out about a 1/2 inch. So, and again, from the side, this is a little stout, a little more stout. I haven't compared powder reservoir in terms of how much it will hold. This one looks like it'll hold more, the new one, but that remains to be seen. It's kind of like the coffee cup, the short, fat coffee cup versus the tall, thin coffee cup. Which one holds more coffee? And they're probably going to be about the same. So, and I can't remember if I mentioned bubble on the new one, no bubble on the old one. And that is it. Other than if you look in there and you see the cutout for the powder, it is much smaller on the new unit. The new unit has a much, much smaller cutout, about half the size of the original. And I don't know if that will help control powder, and maybe that was one of the reasons. Oh, and staining wise, so this didn't stain too bad, a little bit of staining. So I don't know how this shiny red will hold up under powder staining, but I'm not going to lose any sleep over that because that's part of the process. All right, now I'm really done.